All right, everybody, this is Sheets, and I'm going to be leading the recording of the NBA video today. We have a full slate and already have some news that Joel Embiid is going to be out, and that, of course, was released just after I put my initial projections up because that's what the NBA does. But again, the early projections would be early anyway, and just take a wait until maybe 5:30 or so, because that's when I really that's when everything tightens up after the injury report, and then we're going to be going live at 6 o'clock where we firm everything up. So this is going to be a very early look for both of us, and that's it. How was your weekend? Everything going well? What's going on?
Yeah, not a good NFL day for me. I've been struggling with that. I keep winning on the showdown slates, but I can't seem to win on the regular slate. So that's kind of frustrating. But at least it's something. No, it was just a frustrating day a little bit. Couldn't really get any of the games right. It was kind of an ugly day in general. It's not like, I was watching some of the top tens in some of the big tournaments, like had guys with 12 points as your quarterback. Like it was one of those weird days.
Right.
But
right.
I didn't get the right mixes quite enough, and did have a couple good plays that were low owned that I liked, but just couldn't quite get the right mix to make a significant money.
I had a little bit of good news in that, I finally got some damage in my in the survivor pools. Like 45% of the people took the Bengals, and they failed to the Jets, and I faded them. So that's
nice.
So did some damage as far as that goes, and in great with a great sense of irony. After the Jets knocked out half the pool, I need the Giants to lose to Kansas City tonight. So if the Giants and Jets can both win, then I guess I deserve to lose, I suppose. If Giants are going to go into Kansas City coming off of their worst loss ever, you know what I mean? And beat them again, good luck. I did get a couple of aggressive survivor picks through yesterday with Philadelphia, and there was another one that went anyway. So let's go to the NBA. I'm going to share my screen here, and we will get moving. All right. So as I mentioned before, what's his name? Embiid is out, but we're going to get to that in a second. Let's start with Cleveland and Charlotte. What are your initial takes on this game? So
I'm sort of debating whether or not I want to do hardly anything. The one thing that stands out right away is Colin Sexton's price is $5,900 is just a little crazy. I'm assuming that everyone else is going to notice that. And to be honest, it's really not that crazy based on his production this year. I think he's Rubio's taking the assists away from him or whatever. Garland is sort of blossoming a little bit. They've got Mobley in the fold now, who I just think is genuinely going to be one of the best 5 players in the league in the next few years. I really think he's that good. So he's just sort of I just feel like he's off to a slow start. So $5,900 for him is interesting, and that's something I'm considering doing. But I don't think that you're going to need to, especially at really high ownership. So that's really most of all I have for this game. As I pointed out before, the evolution of Miles Bridges to where I think this is for real what we're seeing with him. I think that he's legitimately turning into the stud that I always sort of thought he was going to be. And I don't think that I'm going to play him or anything today, but you're going to see him around 8K a lot more than you're going to see him in the 6K, 5K range like we're used to. So I just wanted to mention that guy, but I really think Sexton, you can make an argument for Kevin Love. He's going to have a game here and there. Ricky Rubio, you can make an argument, but I think it'd be just Sexton or nothing for me in this game.
Yeah, for me, I don't have much of anything in this game, and I have heard some stuff about Sexton being a good play. It's not looking that way for me, and he is looking to be pretty highly owned. So I'm gonna take a look at that a little bit later. But right, actually, yeah, maybe he's not bad. All right, we're gonna look at that a little bit later. Again, this is kind of an early look right now. I mean, kind of a 20% Colin Sexton is not usually the thing that I want to do, but considering that so much of his production comes from scoring, but at some point the price has got to be right.
And it is a good matchup, and there's been some blowouts in there, so just keep that in mind. So
I do have him. Okay, I do have him. Sorry, I do have him it's a top 10 value, but not and I do also have early runs at 20% ownership. So yeah, I guess that's fair. But I don't have anybody else in that game, so we could just move on, I suppose.
All right, let's move on.
Speaking of that, at first look, I don't have too much from the San Antonio Indiana game either, except I have maybe a little mild interest in Miles Turner from Indiana. And I'm not getting to these same San Antonio guys on DraftKings. I'm not getting. I guess Derek White would be my favorite, I suppose, but nothing particular. And DeJounte Murray's 9,200. Wow, good for him. Good for him. It's like, he's playing like it, but I'm not paying that. So I'm going to probably be off of most of this game, I think. Well, what you like Sabonis again, or what do you like here?
No, I think Podol's interesting.
Okay.
Podol they were making a joke on one of the podcasts I listened to the other day that, boy, do we really think the Raptors even won the trade for the Podol trade? And it was that Podol and DeRozan were traded for Kawhi Leonard. But it was funny because now they're calling it the Podol trade because he's sort of the one who's been the most effective of any of them this season. But he's look, it's a really good matchup.
I gotta pause this for a sec. Sorry about that. I don't know whether we caught it mid-sentence or whatever it is, but finish your thoughts.
San Antonio, I would agree that White and White makes the most sense for me, along with Keldon Johnson. And you could argue for Turner. I don't really see it as being. I mean, it feels like you're just playing like Turner's just a guy we just play because there's occasionally a good. I mean, there's really no argument for playing him. It seems to be very little rhyme or reason to when he has big nights. I used to play him and get him right a lot. I don't really see a lot of the same characteristics. Like he had the great matchup against Brooklyn and he struggles and then, dominates against I don't know. I just don't really get it. I have a hard time pegging him this year. So I'm not that interested in this game in general, personally.
All right. So moving on, Portland against Philly, and there is no Embiid. So we have to kind of figure out kind of what to do over there. So I'm going to probably defer in this game, except to say that one thing, I guess basketball related, that this really does help is Lillard from Portland. I mean, Philadelphia doesn't do the greatest job defending guys like this anyway, and they're only saving grace is they do have usually Embiid as a rim protector on some of these pick and rolls to get through, and without Embiid, I think that this could be a very well needed get right spot for Lillard. Actually, I mean, he hasn't done that great this whole season so far, and I think this could be a good spot for him.
He's terrible with the U.S. team too.
Yeah,
maybe he's not that good a basketball player.
It is very possible, but I'm not going to be betting on that quite yet. So that's my initial take. I have to see who started. I guess Andre Drummond at 4,400 is going to look like a good play. I don't know. These other guys are going to play. I'm sure that Tobias Harris is going to be a lock. I don't know. We have
9,100. I don't think he's a lock.
I'm sorry. FanDuel is still like 70 something.
Yeah, FanDuel makes sense. Yeah.
But maybe he's a lock at 9,100 also on DraftKings. I don't know. I doubt it. So I don't know. I really have no comment too much in this game given the news just came out.
Yeah, it's tough with the news just coming out, but I'll do my best. I do think there's something really to be concerned about Lillard. I first of all, Damien Lillard's a great basketball player. I'm not going to take anything away from him. He's been in sort of like the perfect situation, like the guy you can't criticize because he had all these incredible things and the shooting from the logo and all these stuff. Like, look, there's some real basketball issues that he's got. And I think anyone out there and we've had plenty of them, we've had people in our chats even saying it, that to try to compare Damian Lillard to Steph Curry should truly be ashamed of themselves.
No, you can't do that.
They're on a different stratosphere basketball-wise. But Damian Lillard, I do believe is better than he's been so far. I'm not going to bet on him having some sort of breakthrough performance tonight. My natural thing is just to do the chalky thing and play Lillard on FanDuel where he's cheap and skip him on DraftKings. I think you could even skip him on FanDuel, to be honest with you. I will be playing Andre Drummond. I don't know how you're going to get around it exactly.
Yeah.
They play big anyway, so he's the natural one. And it's tough because we did just get Shake Milton back, who's going to take away from some of the Tyrese Maxey possibly. But now without Embiid, it could be both these guys. So I think Shake Milton is actually going to show up as being a pretty good value play. I think that you could argue for guys like Yang. I don't know where I stand on that one yet. I'd like to see how some projection numbers run through. And then Tobias Harris's price is tough over here. So it's going to be one of Milton or Maxey for me is where I would start along with Drummond. And then you got guys who I don't know that you necessarily need to play anyone else, but guys like Korkmaz will show up a little bit. Seth Curry will show up a little bit. And Tobias Harris is going to show up a little bit, but I am not going to play Tobias Harris at 9,100. He doesn't have the kind of game that is going to get you like that you need to get 50. I mean, I guess I still might consider him if he ends up low owned for some reason, but I just don't think that's the way people play anymore. They see somebody out, they always just all jump to it. So I would like to we probably should have held off on this game to last before we started because this is an important one to get right. But as of right now, I'm just going to see that Drummond and one of Milton or Maxey or both is where I would want to be.
You know who's been sneaky playing 20 minutes plus and playing okay is you vented him a couple years ago is Anthony Simons actually. Just to pull it, I just happened to notice it. I mean, actually, he didn't play 20 in the last game, but still had over 20 fantasy points.
Yeah, he's been good. He's played well.
Yeah, so I think there is some better value out there.
Well, keep in mind that Norman Powell was out.
That's a really good point, actually.
So Norman Powell and Covington, I think, are both interesting tonight on the Portland side. If I had to play any of them, it's weird to have a slate like this, and I don't find myself like just being in love with too many spots.
Yeah, like the one game I want to stack is like ugly, so we'll get to that a little later.
Yeah, but I do think I do want to run some projections, and it would be nice to get some idea of what we think is going to happen without Embiid and sort of how much they're going to let Shake Milton come and play after coming back from injury, because that's going to be the really important one. It could be just Milton and Maxey on DraftKings.
Okay, so Chicago against Boston. I guess the one thing I would say to start off with is very rare. I can't imagine I'm saying this, but I don't think that Robert Williams is such a great play. I always like. I know
you always love him.
I know. I guess that's the one surprise. I just have too many other people at center that I'd rather play. So
how about Horford? He put up 40 in every game so far.
Right. I guess. On the Boston side, I mean, I'm really not getting them much. I mean, Tatum would be my favorite, I suppose, but I like spend ups more than him. So I don't know if I'm getting them much of Boston. And then on Chicago, I mean, it's the same situation now. It's like Vooch is fine, but there are better plays at the position. So I'm probably going to be, it's like not the worst value play in the world is seeing Alex Caruso is 4,100. I mean, just for the lack of anything else to talk about in this game, I would throw in Alex Caruso at 4,100 and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I basically am on the same page as you.
Oh, okay. Good.
I think on nights like this, and Boston's looked pretty bad defensively, which is kind of not what they're supposed to do. There's going to be some times where I'll take shots on guys like Lonzo here because just there's a really high ceiling on him, but they're playing good team basketball in Chicago right now. And Caruso is, I mean, you could honestly say that Caruso has meant almost as much to them as guys like DeRozan. Like he's a really good basketball player. And what he does is he changes your identity defensively. He can turn you into a good defensive team where you weren't already there. The Lakers miss him like crazy right now. And he's a terrific player. So I actually think, and I think that he's going to play 30 minutes tonight. So I think he's viable. I don't see anybody else in this game that I really want to play though.
All right, so moving on to Washington, Atlanta. This is a revenge spot. It's a revenge spot for me. Because of those you don't remember, this was the game that I stacked and got overtimed out of the monster last week. This was the game and the same matchup. I just don't think I'm going to do it this time, except for and the problem is it's a lack of play on the Washington side because I happen to like some of the value on the Atlanta side. Like I like DeAndre Hunter. I like Bogdan again, maybe. And maybe on FanDuel more. I mean, I can make cases for all these guys, like Collins again, Bogdan, Capella. The problem is I'm not really getting too much to the Washington side this time. So I don't think I'm going to have as much love for it. But I will say that DeAndre Hunter maybe that was the thing. DeAndre Hunter, maybe he wasn't in that game. I'm not sure, but DeAndre Hunter is 4,200. I think he's my favorite value play, at least on DraftKings. And then we'll keep playing Bogdan. Why not?
Gafford and Dinwiddie were out last time for Washington, so that's why.
Okay, that's why we have Neto. That's right.
Right.
So yeah, that's why. So for me, it's just basically in DraftKings, DeAndre Hunter would be my favorite play over there, and then Bogdan next, and then. I don't think I'm gonna get to Trey Young this time. Although, I mean, he is. If you're gonna do it by position, he is my favorite point guard spend up. I suppose. I like him better than Lillard.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe. But for now, I'm probably not going to be attacking this game as much as. Definitely not as much as I did last.
Yeah, I like the first three guys you mentioned for Atlanta in order: Hunter, Collins, Bogdanovich. I really like John Collins, and I feel like when he doesn't put up 40 fantasy points, I feel, or 35 plus fantasy points, I feel surprised. And he hasn't had that really big breakout, like 65 point fantasy point game this year. We've seen it from him in the past. I do like John Collins. So, and then I'm always going to just keep an eye on what's happening with Capella. He played 28 minutes. There's going to be some time this season where we're going to start playing Capella and he's going to put up some monster games. I just don't think it's ready yet. But I do like those three values. I'm iffy on the Trey Young thing. We're going to have to spend money somewhere, but I don't know where I stand on him. I do have him ahead of Lillard for what it's worth right now. I kind of like the idea of speculating on Lillard. The problem is everybody's going to play him too. I think they're both going to be owned a little bit. And on the Washington side, the only guy who I really can speak that makes any sense to me on DraftKings is KCP, and even that's just a thin play. So I think I would probably stay away from the Washington side. I think I will have some Collins and Hunter though.
Okay, Toronto, New York. My two favorites here. I like Precious at center at 4,700. There's another.
What about Boucher?
I didn't quite get to him.
I don't know why.
Has he been playing minutes again?
Can you look at your projections? Because I have him projected to play 28 minutes, and I can't figure out what it's done. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I didn't have him for minutes. I just have him with the just 20 fantasy points off of 4K price tag. I mean, are people out? Is he going to be playing 28 minutes all of a sudden?
I don't know. I honestly can't figure out why it's rated like this.
Yeah.
It could just be a mistake, but
I think it has to be. I mean,
yeah, maybe. I mean, he hasn't played 20 minutes this season yet.
No.
I still think he's a really good play, by the way, even if he only plays 20 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. But for me, it's just Precious. And then Trent, not really. So for me, it's just Precious, honestly, on the Toronto. Let me just see if I can get to Van Fleet again. I mean, not really. And then on the Knicks, you can just play Randall every night. I mean, you can certainly do that. And I actually do like him a little bit. I mean, I don't like him as much as some of the better spend ups, but I think he's fine. So for me, it would be Randall and maybe Precious from Toronto.
Yeah, I think OG's fine. I like Boucher, even in this limited minute role. I love taking chances on him when he's cheap enough. He's been getting a little bit more run, sort of seems to have fallen back into favor with them. Oh, I see what's happening. Scotty Barnes is out, so they're trying to figure out what's going to happen with the.
Oh, he's out? Oh, okay.
So that's going to make Boucher really stand out, possibly. But it's weird.
I have him just. Well, he's questionable here. Oh, he's downgraded doubtful. Okay, there it is. Okay, that's
yeah.
What it's going to be.
Delano Benton might get some minutes as well.
I had him in the last game. He was 0.8% owned. He had like 10 fantasy points, but I was into it though.
He's oddly listed as a point guard on DraftKings and a power forward on FanDuel. So
yeah, I tell you, I played him in the last game, and he what did he get? 12 minutes? Something? No, he got 17 minutes. He got 8 fantasy.
He didn't do anything.
Nah, he didn't. But I was in it though. I was in there.
Yeah. I kind of like the OG, and I think that Gary Trent sees a boost as well. The Precious is starting to feel like lighting money on fire with him.
Oh yeah.
He just never gets there ever. He got there once this year.
Okay.
And everybody plays him every time. That's not true. He had his first two out of the games of the season, or whatever, second and third game, he had 39 and 30. Then he had a 28, but 21, 16, 10, and he just plays so many minutes, it doesn't do anything. He's okay, but I mean, I'd rather play the Boucher, the guy who actually goes out there and wants to do everything. Boucher and Trent was where I lean. I don't mind the Precious thing. I just probably won't do it myself. I think I'd rather play a guy like Covington if I want a guy who plays 30 plus minutes and doesn't do anything. I do think OG Anunoby is going to be, this is a reasonable price for him. It's not a great matchup. He hasn't put up the monster game, but he hasn't been shooting the ball well. And if he heats up a little bit, I could see him paying off, but mostly it's going to be Boucher and Trent for me. And then on the Knicks side, I think we should always speculate on Kemba every time he's playing at home. That's going to be my take. I'm just going to take some shots on him every time. I think he's at the right price range to do that. So he's the only one who sort of stands out as sort of a play thing. I guess you could talk about, I mean, you know, we never play Fournier, but he actually is pretty active, and it's not like the most exciting slate. I don't know. I'm probably not going to do it. I really think it'd probably just be Kemba or Julius Randle for me. And that's probably it. I don't really love either of them, but they both make enough sense to where I'll consider them.
Okay, you want to move on to Denver, Memphis, where you have, at least for me, and probably for a lot of people, probably the best, well, at least one of the best value plays on the slate. That'd be Jaren Jackson at 5,400, at least on DraftKings. And then on the Denver side, I think Jokic is right now rating as the top spend up by, I'm now with Embiid out, I think by a lot. I think he's much better than Cat. So I like Jokic if you can play him. I'm sure you'll be able to get him in if you want. And then so him, Jaren Jackson rates to be the value plays, and you can certainly play. You can always play Morant, man. I'm silly me for thinking he wasn't a 9K worth 9K. I mean, the guy's freaking insane. So there's Jokic, Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., and you could always sprinkle. You could always play Michael Porter Jr. every slate.
Yeah. Okay. So I here's what I'm doing. I'll take some shots, sure, on Jaren Jackson Jr. I don't think it's as obvious of a play as everybody thinks it is. Like, this guy is in foul trouble every time every game tips off. I think this is the game you're probably stacking if you want to stack. Like, give me Jaren Jackson Jr., give me Desmond Bane, give me Steven Adams, and then we can consider the higher price guys. But I like all three of those guys a lot. Bane, Adams. I do think there's always risk with Jaren Jackson Jr. So when he's going to be 50% owned, just keep in mind the guy can be fouled out in like 18 minutes. Michael Porter Jr. has been a very, very frustrating, and really seems like when Will Barton's playing that he just sort of has takes sort of the back seat when Barton and Jokic are playing. So I don't think I'm going to get to Michael Porter Jr. And one of these days it's going to kill me. He's going to go nuts, but we haven't seen anything even close to that. We haven't even seen a game we would take from him this season. So I kind of meant to, do it first before I go play you. I think you play Jokic on the other side of these guys and you're in business. That's what I'm considering doing. So Jokic with all the Memphis guys, and then you can include Ja if you want to. I think he may be just as good of a play as Trey, and actually he's definitely a better play than Lillard from what we've seen so far this year. But I think Ja might be every bit as good of a play as Trey too. So that's how I would sort of have it ranked: Jackson, Bane, Adams, Ja. With you could also play Melton if you didn't feel like playing Ja, because Melton's getting plenty of minutes and certainly showing some upside. I like this game. I just other than Jokic on the Denver side, nobody feels like a sure thing. Monty Morris is fine. Aaron Gordon is fine, but I think I'd probably just keep it simple and stick to Jokic.
All right, moving on. Orlando, Minnesota. Mo Bamba is looking to be a very, very strong play on DraftKings, and because of his power forward eligibility on FanDuel, almost a lock. That's the way I'm kind of looking at that. With respect to Minnesota, I mentioned Cat. I mean, I don't have him as good as Jokic, but maybe just as a lower owned pivot, I mean, you can certainly make a case for it. And the other part of the Minnesota thing is Jaden McDaniels remains free at 3,500. So that's at least my first look is Jaden McDaniels and Cat as a high price pivot, and Mo Bamba from Orlando.
Yeah, I think this game has some stackability as well. I've actually liked what I've seen a little bit more out of Minnesota this year. They look a little bit better. You could certainly play Towns if you didn't want to play Jokic in that other spot. I think Towns is reasonable. The problem I'm having with Minnesota just in general is there's a lot of mouths to feed. Malik Beasley finally showed a nice game the other day, which means he might even get some minutes. The minutes are all in flux a little bit not in flux, but Beasley hasn't been playing minutes, and then they gave him 28 minutes in the last game. I don't really know where which one of these guys I think that the truth is I'd probably just consider McDaniels and Beasley as for value. D'Angelo Russell's going to have some games, and I'm not going to have him very much of those. I just don't, he's the third best player on their team, and actually no, he's the third highest usage player. I just think he's not a good basketball player. I don't tend to play him very much, even though the matchup's fine. I think Carter is everything you said about Bamba. I think Wendell Carter is the better play on DraftKings than Bamba is.
Okay.
I don't think I think he'll be twice his own too. So I don't think there's anything unusual about that. I do think he will be low owned on FanDuel, Carter, so you could consider him over there. Jalen Suggs. But I think what I would do is maybe take another shot on the low owned Terrence Ross at 4K. That's the only thing that I could sort of come up with that makes some sense to me as an off the board play in this game. Everybody else is sort of going to be owned, makes some sense. I feel like you could go easily either way with Bamba tonight. I think he's got a ceiling. Mostly he's not getting you there at this price, in my opinion.
All right. So I have to do some homework on this last game.
Oh God.
2.5 hour island game.
Yeah.
But for me, this is like the game to stack.
So what's the argument for stacking an OKC?
No, just like some of this value here. So I have to do some homework on why all these guys are popping.
I'll tell you.
So I'd like to know why. At least now, my second best value play on the slate is Isaiah Hartenstein, and then there's Batum, Reggie Jackson. And Zubac. Obviously, you don't want to play Zubac.
Well, you love these 3K guys that play like 15 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. And then if you don't like that, you can just play Paul George with it. And then OKC just play, Shea and Dort and and Giddey, and just don't watch all the early games. I don't know. That's my first look. That's why it's first look. What I tell you.
I can't get behind. In general, I never want to. OKC is the kind of team you want to stay away from stacking at all costs.
Yeah.
Look at their players' projections for a minute. They have 11 guys who are going to play 16 plus minutes. Not sure, probably slants to some of them, but it's just ridiculous.
All right.
But I also think that they can't stay in games. They get smoked. Oddly enough, their one win against us, the Lakers. They got smoked in that game, and they just happened to come back. It was weird. I think there is something to do with some of their value. You've got the Robinson Earl thing again, if you want to go there.
Oh, I forgot about him too. Yeah, that's the other one.
It's whatever. It's not an exciting thing.
I forgot about James Robinson Earl.
Kenrich Williams is blot. This is it's a very boring team to talk about. Lou Dort, if you think the game does stay close, I think he can put up 25 fantasy points. I think the only guys I really want in this game would be Shea or Josh Giddey. I really like Josh Giddey, by the way. He's a really good basketball player, and he's actually gonna hurt Shea a little bit because you look at this guy with assists. He had 10 assists a couple games ago. He had 6 assists in the last game. He's averaging almost 6 assists. Actually, he's averaging over 6 assists. Josh Giddey, take him as the discount. I don't think it's the worst thing to play Shea, but I don't particularly like it. I think Giddey's the only guy I'm sort of siding with over there. I like Kennard on the other side. The minutes should be pretty secure now with their rotation the way that it is. It's just a matter of whether he makes shots, which I'm okay to take that shot.
Paul George is $10,700.
Why is everybody's going to get off of Nick Batum because he had a kind of a dud game? I would.
I'm on that.
I would consider playing Batum here, and maybe consider playing Batum over Kennard. They're both probably going to be showing up for. Maybe Kennard will get. It's going to be close between their minutes, I think, and I think either one of them could play their way on to being on whatever that lineup is. They seem to like Kennard shooting though. So I mean, they're all in play for me. I really don't like this slate very much. It's weird. I wish I would have a stronger takes on some of these things. It's not like me. Batum and Kennard are my favorites. I guess I'll just leave it at that. And I think Reggie Jackson is going to absolutely explode one of these days. He just can't make a shot right now to save his life. So that's how I've got it rated. I have no interest in Hartenstein.
Yeah. So I think
you're not going to like Hartenstein anymore now that we have updated projections.
Okay.
Because he might playing Hartenstein is just like you can play him at minimum cost at any time.
Right.
You have actual guys in Philly, and the guy who we didn't mention who doesn't play as much as Paul Reed.
Okay.
Who's going to show up because he's going to get minutes now. So Paul Reed, Andre Drummond, Shake Milton, which is weird that they're not increasing Shake Milton's minutes. If he's on a hardcore minutes cap, that's one bit of research I need to do. It is weird that Embiid can be out and there's not like that. There's not anything so crazy exciting projection wise outside of Drummond and Paul Reed. And even that I mean, Drummond, sure, that's fine. He's a very, very good play. Paul Reed feels a little thin. I would still side with Maxey and Milton as the guys have to do something. And I think it is okay to play Tobias Harris. I'm just probably not going to do it. All right. So should we go through the plays?
Sure.
All right. So I've got my favorite plays on the slate are, and again, I don't love these plays. It's really weird. Drummond I do love. That's an easy one. Drummond, Reed, John Collins, DeAndre Hunter, Chris Boucher, Gary Trent, Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, Steven Adams, Jaden McDaniels, Nick Batum, and Luke Kennard. Focusing with the Denver-Memphis game, so probably include Jokic in there.
I'm going to trust the Philly value is going to eclipse some of this other nonsense that I have.
Yeah, but there's not that much of it. There's only two guys, really.
Right. I'm going to hope that someone's better than Isaiah Hartenstein.
Yeah, Paul Reed.
Okay. But aside from that, Jokic is the top play for me. And then, I mean, right now, I would play Paul. I would play him and then just play those. Right now, I'd play those Clipper values with the Golden State guys. But with Philly out there, I'll probably have to change that. But I'll probably end up playing Jokic in my big line.
Yeah, that makes sense. One guy I didn't mention for the Clippers who also is in play is Eric Bledsoe. 4,700 is cheap for him. So one of these guys, it's going to be their night. It's very hard to know with the Clippers rotation. They have so many interchangeable, similar-ish type of players. That it's hard to know who else other than Paul George is gonna do anything. Just going back to the game you wanted to stack. I do think that the only guys I have really strong conviction on are Drummond, Boucher, John Collins. That's pretty much it for me today. I don't have a strong conviction on other takes. And I'll be live at 6 Eastern with you, but I because I really would like to have a better feel for what I want to do, and I just don't like anything on this slate. It's weird.
But as you said, there's going to be stuff that that we'll find out about, and the stuff that we don't know that we're going to find out about probably.
Yeah.
And that's why, again, this is I think it's kind of cool to get an idea of where the slate you think could go by watching this early. But it's just so important to be there at 6. I mean, really. I mean, it's going to have the updated projections, it's going to have our updated takes. We will have had a chance to stew over things a little bit, and you'll see us kind of positively struggle over those last decisions, right? Which you guys can hopefully profit from.
Yep, absolutely. I agree with all of that.
All right, so we will see you. I will see you then. We're going to fire up an NFL Showdown video, which will be equally lack of information, but we will. I'll fire that up right now.
All right. Good luck, everybody.
Good luck. I'll send you a new invite.
All right.